Next up, we have the privilege of hearing from Latoya Shauntay Snell, a powerful athlete, an advocate who's reshaping the narrative around fitness and inclusivity. Latoya's journey is a testament to resilience. She's transformed one of her life's toughest challenges into a platform for change. After facing false allegations of cheating in a marathon and enduring public heckling, she didn't retreat. Instead, she rose, becoming a leading voice for plus-size athletes, celebrated in outlets like Vogue and the Washington Post. Today, Latoya will take us through her personal story, examining the complex interplay of body image and intersectionality. She'll delve into the mixed blessings of social media, the hurdles of financial and educational barriers, and the critical issues of accessibility and the power of community support. Please join me in a warm welcome for Latoya Shauntay Snell.
Thank you so much. So I'm just going to jump all into it. So my number one goal is to fail all of you. It's been an absolute honor that by profession, I disappoint people to some degree every single day. And sometimes I get paid for it. Some people know about me because I'm a freelance writer and a motivational speaker, while others know me as a professional loudmouth. Now, in my not so free time, I am a clapback connoisseur. I will remind you to season your food before you try to come for me in the comment section, and I'll inspire you to work out too. We can call it a fitness shuffle with profanity. I can be a little unorthodox, a little untamed, possibly sound like your inside voice hemorrhaging from the outside during a morning meeting. I'll caution you though, that if you decide that you feel inspired or emboldened to borrow some of my tips from this talk, I'm going to tell you buyer beware, because this may come with side effects like job loss or side eyes, ball of anxiety, and the need to hire a publicist. Shout out to my publicist for getting me this talk tonight. But I don't want you to walk away thinking that I ramble just for the sake of rambling, unless that's my neurodivergency leaking out into the company's chat. I always say, or do something for a reason and always for a bigger purpose. And somehow I've managed to use this specific skill set to become a fitness and wellness influencer. I promise you that not all of us are terrible. I've managed to I've pretty much managed to fail people with my business name. Running Fat Chef. It was a blog that somehow turned into a movement and a business that threw me in the depths of becoming an accidental activist. And this was also sponsored by failure. So we're essentially here together because in some way or another, we understand that it takes a lot of courage to wake up and willfully elect to be ourselves, particularly in our work environments. My everyday looks like being a successful failure to those who praise stereotypically fit and traditional looking athletes. I am everything that people associate as the underdog. I'm African American. I'm fat, neurodivergent. I'm a fabulous bisexual, queer, high school dropout who dropped out for 7 gym credits, and I'm chronically ill, and I'm a woman. I'm the person that people oftentimes tell to get off the figurative sofa, even though I kind of don't like the sofa. And when I do it, then cute clothes are oftentimes not made in my size. People will remind me about knee problems that I do not have and shame every ounce of my very existence. I've completed close to 300 fitness events over the span of a decade, and is mostly in the road and trail running community and the ultra running scene. Just for clarity, marathons are 26.2 miles, and ultra running is anything above that. My longest distance to date is 100 kilometers, which is equivalent to 62.3 miles, and it took me a lot of hours to get there. As a 28-time road and trail marathon finisher and a 7-time ultra marathoner, people will still remind me every single day about what they perceive as a shortcoming because they don't think that I deserve to be in the room. I wasn't always this confident in my voice or my presence. I didn't think I deserved to be in any space that hinted that I would find success in the room. When we are commentary, we don't come out of the womb thinking, I'm the worst thing that ever existed. Instead, it sounds more like an infomercial, selling weight loss products with the promise of living out the life of your dreams, or picking up magazine issues of people who don't resemble you. Perhaps it's a lack of access to people, places, things, or opportunities in turn limiting you from an untapped potential. And then there's harsh commentary that exists, like hearing from your loved ones that people like you should not do, act, or feel a certain way if you desire validation of your very existence. I've borrowed all of this commentary and more for years until I couldn't remember the first time that I remember calling myself ugly or stupid, not capable or worthy. On the contrary, there was it's a little voice that sat in the back of my head that urged me to dream bigger, dig deeper, and lean into the scary things. In efforts of not doing the shitty influencer thing, I will not sell you on a product that's going to magically cure you and is going to make you feel great overnight. Instead, I'll offer you some cringy honesty at my expense. It's one of my specialties. So if there was a soundtrack to self-sabotage that damn near thrived in my head until probably my 30s, maybe a little more or less, I was singing it. So let's go over the track list, okay? So one, I dropped out of high school and I was only missing 7 gym credits. Check. I mastered a routine of being the class clown. Check. Um, Changed my major 6 times in college, and this was a 2-year college, and I walked out with no degree. Check. Being the captain of the secret society of I'm going to lose weight, but I managed to gain 50 pounds club. Check. Let's go into the corner and cry because, and I'm going to blame the whole world for my issues. I went double platinum, baby. And postpartum baddie with suicidal ideation, yeah, that's me too. So here's a Snapple cap fact for you. Nobody in this world passed on a comment worse to me than the words I've said to myself. Despite feeling like I was in this bottomless pit, I found love while in high school. We're celebrating right now 17 years of marriage, and thank God I remember that one. Um, Recently we just celebrated 17 years and 23 years of being together. We've met in the lunchroom as I demonstrated how I wanted to stab my French teacher after she kicked me out for the 7th time in a month after ditching her class in high school. He found me attractive as I was sticking it into my lunch tray and demonstrating this to a bunch of my friends. And I wish this was a made up story, but this is very true. We were fortunate to have our son, his namesake, William. He's a rainbow baby. And if anyone's not familiar with that term, that's a child that's created after you lose one. In my case, I had several miscarriages. I stopped counting after 4. And I tend to use humor as a way to cope with my everyday life. And this is something that I'm practicing to not do as often. Sometimes we just have to sit in our pain. For a long time, I walked around with a significant amount of physical and mental pain. Despite going to the doctor, I was told that my physical aches was it wasn't nothing. Like, this is just something that's part of your imagination. Um, for some people, they just told me just take an aspirin, um, brush it off. But I don't know how you can brush off nausea, dry heaving, the sweating, the swelling, and not to mention the soiled clothes that occurred when I had my menstrual. At that time, we didn't know what was going on with me, but I'll get there. Everyone told me that it was normal, and so I processed it as it was normal too. So when I would go through these heavy bouts of depression, anger, or at times isolating myself, people told me I should get over it. When I had moments where it would piss me off to be told that there was nothing wrong and I would go off, people would say, you don't even think about how it comes out of your mouth or how people feel. But the truth is, my personal truth, I said, I'm always thinking about how everybody thinks about what comes out my mouth. I've lost countless jobs, missed dozens of opportunities, and this cycle made me feel like I had no control over any aspect of my life. And in turn, I would either sabotage successful situations or talk myself out of doing new things because I was tired of these opportunities being ripped from me. So at least I had control over that. Pain, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual pain, can alter anyone's way of moving through life. But between having my son and not wanting to disappoint my husband, I kept leaning into that small voice that urged me to try. This led to my first set of failures. I started applying to jobs that people didn't think I was qualified for or thought would keep me in a financially compromised state. After all, up until this point, I took everyone else's advice and it wasn't working out for me. So I tried working inside of a correctional facility. Oh, that failed. I worked for a few not for profits. Turns out they were really brutal. Managed to get fired from several retail stores after taking up my favorite recreational sport at the time, cursing people out, and then sometimes with a little edge of boxing. This is actually heavily frowned on. And some of the things I had to do after that, after losing so many jobs, was take off the book work. So there were times where I was an office cleaner. Strangely enough, the things that gave me joy all involve movement or art. So when I think back to my MySpace era, I used to write poetry for my computer, and this evolved into performing on open mics, and I was terribly shitty at talking to crowds for a long time. I would rush through the words and I would shake uncontrollably, and then one day it just started slowly slowing down. I started meeting people who essentially became what I call enablers, really good enablers, reminding me to slow down in my delivery, breathe, stop rushing through your words. And one friend said to me as she leaned in, everything doesn't have to end with a curse word, but these days, especially as a loudmouth of a professional loudmouth, I still beg to differ. So through this passion, I remembered one of my childhood dreams, and it was to become a writer. I abandoned hope on this because I dropped out of high school. Who the hell is going to hire me as a writer when I couldn't even finish high school and didn't complete my college education? I put writing on ice for a little bit, and after I had my son, I kept that musing to myself. And then my husband started leaning into photography, and he's so phenomenal with a camera. I took on to this interest heavily as well, but I realized that I had more joy taking pictures of food than people because food doesn't talk back. I threw myself into learning this, but people kept saying that both of these passions don't pay the bills. But that's cool. I'll take my regular 9 to 5 and I'm just going to do this on the side and take on what I call my happy pill. Anyone who knows me knows that my love language is cooking for people, even those who I don't even like. I grew up food insecure, so it's something that I just don't wish on anyone. And in turn, one of my friends, my best friends, extended this opportunity to me to pay for this expensive culinary school that ironically was on Jerry Springer during the commercial breaks. I wish I was making this up too, but this is very true, and the school is now closed. I put aside my pride and I took up that offer, and I couldn't have muster or imagine success for myself still. But as a parent and spouse, I didn't want to be a paperweight for them. I pushed through culinary school despite being sick, still not really having any answers, graduated from the program, and I even spoke for my graduating class. And I was just like, wow, maybe this is a little bit of a mission accomplished. And for a moment, I thought to myself, maybe there's success for people like me. I was able to cook. I was moved up to a line cook, and I moved up in the ranks. And then one day, bam, my health hit me hard. Next thing I knew, I collapsed. They diagnosed me with sciatica, a herniated disc, possible disc degeneration. They found fibroids, 21 of them, and they told me it was normal because unfortunately, this is something that happens a lot to Black and brown women. And of course, they reminded me about my weight. I was this close. I thought to myself, well, this is why I shouldn't have tried. So suicidal ideation, something that I'm familiar with, crept back in and I hit rock bottom. For a year, I didn't desire to do anything but disappear. I love my husband and love my son, but they weren't enough for me to go on. And some would call that selfish, but I call that my personal truth. And it's a lot of people's personal truth. Most people didn't know any of these things because they just saw all the smiles and the hyper independence. I was always the strong friend. And to be honest, I still am the strong friend to many people in my circle and to my following. So one May afternoon in 2013, I saw someone working out on their Instagram feed. The workouts that she did was amazing, and I found myself tapping into the secret society of weight loss, the weight loss club that I abandoned once ago. And I was like, I want to be as strong as her. And for the first time, I was driven by my own desires without interference. Initially, when I said it out loud, people told me that they supported me. And then when I started losing the weight, they started saying you should gain it back. This thing that people sold me on, this weight loss that I ended up losing 100 pounds in a year, turned out it doesn't always come with happiness. I realized in hindsight that what I really loved about her was her smile. She looked so free. She looked happy and content, and it was something I knew nothing about. The great thing about movement, though, was that I was introduced to a range of sports. I've managed to jump out of a perfectly good airplane for fun and fear. I've hiked. I took an interest in calisthenics. I can do clapping push-ups now, and cycling and yoga for clarity. And then I did this torture sport called running. I've been running since 2013, and I took my first race on in January 11th, 2014, with New York Road Runners at the Joe Kleinerman 10K after a group called Black Girls Run talked me out of running a half marathon for my first and only time. And when I hit the last 800 meters, one of my friends started screaming at me to run faster, and it felt amazing. I remember everything pumping through me, and she says to me, "So when are you going to sign up for a marathon?" And I was like, hell no. I'm not signing up for a marathon. But by that point, it was already ingrained in me. I was hooked. I wanted to stay here. I wanted to see what else can I do with this. So fast forward to 2015, I allowed people to tell me that I was not small enough to be a marathoner, and I believed them. So before I knew it, I was in the depths of an eating disorder. Most times when people see someone my size, I'm close to 300 pounds, people immediately think, oh, she's binging. In my case, I want to be able to be the person to debunk that for you today. I have anorexia nervosa, and it is something that honestly never leaves you. Even when you're having these high moments, it's something that never leaves me. So my first marathon was not one of my greatest of memories. I allowed someone else's definition of success to overshadow my accomplishments. I hit this crossroad in mid-training where I passed out while I was still going to a culinary job, and it was the wake-up call that I needed. So without phrasing it in any way, I had to learn how to fail a lot of people to find my success. From that point on, I told myself that I'd move my way. So in 2017, while training for my seventh or eighth marathon, because yes, I kept going. I found out I was carrying twins. I ended up miscarrying, and my best friend failure came back to touch my shoulder again, and this time it was heavy. I was diagnosed with stage 4 rectovaginal endometriosis. I eventually later on found out that I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, possible adenomyosis, and gastrointestinal issues, which is something that is actually plaguing me at this very moment. And I was devastated. I was ready to give up on my fitness adventures, my family and friends. Now, some people who were skeptical was just like they were so inspired by my own journey because I had the courage to actually bet on myself. It was like, you should really keep going. So I did. You would think that it would be a happily ever after from here. No, I got heckled at the New York City Marathon that year. I got heckled at mile 22, and the quote was, "It's going to take your fat ass forever." That's all I heard. It's going to take your fat ass forever. And I was like, great. Somebody just said my inside thoughts. That's how I see myself every single day. And I just thought at that point, maybe I could revert to the old me and I can knock this man out and I could go home. But two women came to my side and said, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. So I decided to go on. But you know, that whole sticks and stones may break my bones, but words never hurt me. I think it's a crock of bullshit. So it did stick with me. It stuck with me so much that I ended up writing about it on that crazy name blog, Running Fat Chef. And the weirdest of ways of how life will come and smack you in the face is someone from the root.com reached out to me and they said, we would love to interview you. And I laughed. I thought it was a joke until I looked at the ending of the email and I said, "Oh my God, this is real." So she ended up she listened to me and she read my blog and she's like, "You're an amazing writer. Have you ever considered freelance writing?" And light bulb went in my head and I was just like, I have to take advantage of this moment. If I never write anything again on a professional platform, let this be the one. I ended up pitching this article and the title that went up is I'm a plus size athlete and I was heckled at the New York City Marathon. They never tell you when these articles are going to go out. So I woke up to being viral. And I'm talking about tens of thousands of people literally reading my article around the world, viral in 24 hours. And I failed again because I ended up losing my job. I ended up losing my job. I had countless interviews. I was on television. I thought the moment was going to pass. I thought people wouldn't care about a fat girl with a profane mouth from Brooklyn. And it turns out, joke's on me. I'm still here, still telling this story. And some people would think that after this is where the happily ever after happens. And then no, that's not where it happens, actually. When people see something that looks different and it looks new and shiny, people love to touch it. And then after a while, they get accustomed to that new and shiny thing. It's not new and shiny anymore. And they want to change it and swap it out with something different. And I am no different. From sharing this story and this experience with a global audience, I've disappointed thousands of people daily. I am not celebrated for being fast or for coming in first place or for shape shifting my body. Instead, I get countless hate mail on a regular basis. There are times where I read things about myself like wishes for me to die or sexual assault or calling me a failure or accusing me of not accomplishing the things that I've accomplished. Or when I fail hard. And I didn't know how to have a turnaround story for that because when you don't see someone that looks like you don't have a reference point. But here's the thing though. This was the best way that I could have ever failed anybody and disappointed anyone in my life. Because being open about my story, without even knowing it, I became this thing called a disruptor. I give people permission to fail others every single day, and I love it. It gives me goosebumps. Through failing fabulously, I've used my own story to inspire countless people to move, express, and be their most authentic selves in real time. I realized the role model that I was looking for was in my own reflection. And when I thought of a winner, I thought this person had to have the special package, and I thought I could see that this person was going to be great, but that greatness was in me. And what I realized is that my superpower is to help people tell their own story so they can see that that greatness exists in them. Now, am an influencer, one of the many hats that I have, but I don't sell magic pills. I don't offer you anything on the internet or a promise of being a poster child of success. My marketing strategy is for you to be you, to show up every single day and tap into heart and be you. And don't be afraid to disappoint people. So when I learned how to properly advocate for myself, I learned how to be a better advocate for others. Do I have hard days? Hell yes. Do I have fantastic days? Hell yes. Learning how to fail others looks like going to therapy sessions weekly and encouraging others to do the same and seek help if they need it. Talking about my battles with anorexia nervosa, being a body politics champion, being a thought leader, reminding people that they are more than just their body image and that their neurodivergency is actually a superpower. We just think differently. With this body in mind, I've been featured on magazine covers. I've been in national campaigns. I have a thriving career, and I'm a professional cheerleader. And the beautiful thing about it is this story, me telling my story, I get to use myself as a muse every day. And every time I wake up, I know there's somebody else out there who is taking up telling their own story authentically too. This is not just about me. Whatever weird, strange reason, the universe decided to use me as a muse to inspire others. And it's the best gift that I've ever been gifted with. So I will never sell you any of those things that you see or hear about on social media and about how influencers are trash. I mean, some of us are, we have trashy moments. But I promise you, the only gimmick that I'm trying to sell you is to have this delusional self-belief to believe in yourself. So thank you so much for tuning in to my talk.